That was, of course, Bartók's Concerto for Orchestra. If you've just tuned in, you'll know my special guest today is Professor Augustus Eriksson, renowned critic and international musicologist. Your next choice, Professor, Chopin's Fantasy Impromptu. You've chosen a fairly obscure recording played by Bernard Halfburn?
It's pronounced Haypen. Yes, Bernard Haypen. He's certainly not well known, but I think he deserves to be. I saw him once at the Wigmore Hall, and he was one of those pianists who, well, as you walked on stage, you thought, surely this chap can't be that good. And he shuffled up to the piano, almost seemed scared of it, and then, well, my goodness, could he play the piano? 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 Could you 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 play the girl from Ipanema? Could you play the girl from Ipanema? Could you play the girl from Ipanema?
Hi, I'm so sorry. I was asleep. Can I play the girl from Ipanema? Yes, of course I can. I think so. I've played a few million times before. Sort of song, isn't it? The Girl from Ipanema. And it's all about a girl on a beach. And she's tall and tan and young and lovely. Tall and tan and young and lovely. The girl from Ipanema goes walking. And when she passes, each man she passes goes, "Ah!" Yes. Reasonable, I suppose. When she walks, she's like a samba. When she walks, she's like a samba. It twists and turns and sways so gentle, and when she passes, each man she passes goes, "Ah!" I think I'd go, "Ah!" Somebody walked like a samba. Funny sort of song. I think it's a funny sort of song. In the middle is quite disturbing, really. Quite worrying. But I watch her so sadly. How can I tell her I love her? This chap's watching her. Doesn't know her. He wants to tell her that he's in love with her, you see. Isn't that strange? Is it just me? Is that a little bit odd? He's stalking this girl. He's stalking this girl on the beach. And he wants to tell her he loves her. And he doesn't know how to do that, you see. Well, I don't know, but I don't think I would tell her I love her. I think if you went up to somebody and said, "Sorry to trouble you. I noticed you walking on the beach like a samba, and I just thought I'd mention this. I'm in love with you." I'm not sure what sort of reaction that would get. I tried it myself once. It wasn't totally good. The thing is, you see, there actually is a girl from Ipanema. There really was a girl from Ipanema. Can you imagine what that must be like? The sort of fame that you have. Famed the world over. Everybody knows you. You're really famous. But nobody actually knows who you are, really. So she must stand in an elevator. And the music must start. And she probably says, "That's me, you know. That's me that Astrid Gilberto was singing about. I'm the girl from Ipanema." Which must be a little bit strange now because she's in her late 80s. But there you are. Strange times, I suppose. Strange song. But that was the 60s. Ooh. Sorry. I don't like numbers. But that was the 60s. I started playing the piano in the 60s. One of my earliest recollections was a man in a white coat talking to my mother. And I remember him saying, children on the spectrum, Mrs. Halfburn. Why do they do that? It's not Halfburn, it's Haypen. I know it's spelled Halfburn, but it's Hayburn. Children on the spectrum, Mrs. Halfburn, are often very musical. She used to send Bernard for piano lessons. And so it was. I was sent to Mrs. Dunning's. So when I wasn't being bullied at school, I was being bullied by my piano teacher.
Bernard, you must count time. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first beat and the third beat are the strongest. The third beat is not as strong as the first beat, but they are both stronger than the second and the fourth. The second and the fourth beats are inferior. They are mere turds, floating on the lavatory of music. The first beat and the third beat are retrospectively the strongest beats. And that rule must be obeyed. It was made by God. Only foreigners and left-handed people and those with dubious sexual preferences play on the second and the fourth beat. If you played Mozart on the second and the fourth beat, you would be struck down.
Mrs. Dunnings would be cooking her husband's tea while she was teaching me, and I thought, is that right? Shouldn't she be cooking her husband's tea in her own time, that stuff that she was talking about, time, that funny substance? Shouldn't she be cooking her husband's tea in her own time, and not the time that she prostituted by selling it to my mother at 8 and 6 an hour? Don't like numbers. But I was quite grateful, really, because at least it stopped her breathing all over me. Yes. And apparently, they told me I had this thing, I wasn't sure what it was. They said I had perfect pitch. And they said I had a photographic memory, whatever that was. And I know I could I'd watch things on the television. I don't know if anybody remembers this, for example. But if I heard something on the television, I could sort of play it when I was a child. Like, 1,000,000 housewives every day pick up a tin of beans and say,
Beans, beans, fines.
yes, it does appear that you know that one. Or, hands that do dishes just as mild as your face used. Yes, well, not so sure of that one. Yes, don't worry about taking time and tune or anything. Oh, what else was there? But I played it for Mrs. Dunning's, and she wasn't.
Who on earth taught you to play that? What are you playing?
I said nobody. I just played it.
Don't tell me lies.
Well, I just played it. I didn't like being told I was a liar. And then she spoke to my mother. And she said,
He can't have two teachers, Mrs. Hayburn. A man cannot have two masters.
And my mother said,
Well, I don't think anyone else has been teaching him. Has anyone else been teaching you, Bernard?
and I just said, oh, no. I didn't like being called a liar. And then there were the 70s. They were strange times too. Remember, the first time I ever played in public was at the Wentworth Tavern. And I was out one night on a sort of pub crawl. I was very young. With my mate Kevin. And my mate Kevin, he was a year older than me, but he seemed much older, much more confident than me. And he went past this public house and he said, oh, look, there's a piano there, Bernard. You can play the piano. Why don't you come in and play the piano? And he dragged me into this public house, and I couldn't believe the audacity as he went up to the barman and he said, can my friend play the piano? Well, the barman looked at us and he said, oh, you don't know, can he? Like that. And I felt ever so embarrassed. And there was this piano, this giant beast of a piano, a behemoth of a piano in the corner. And he said, if he wants to play it, he can. And they had a dartboard on the piano. People would throwing darts, the dartboard, and they moved the dartboard. They weren't worried about the underage drinking, but they didn't want to puncture me. And I sat down at the piano, and my hands were shaking with nerves. And I thought, well, I can't play Mozart. I don't think they'll like Mozart if I play Mozart in here. So I remember a program I watched the night before. I think it was called Coronation Street. And they had a piano in a pub. I think it was called the Rovers Return, possibly. And this chap, he was sort of playing things like sort of... like that as well, with the glissanders. And I did that. And everybody started applauding. And this chap came up to me and he said, "Ew, you're a regular dab hand on that old Joanna, ain't you? Hey, can I get you a drink, my son?" And I'd never had a drink before, apart from possibly a red wine at my sister's wedding. Very small one, sort of wine shandy, really. And I didn't want to make a fool of myself. And I remember too, on Coronation Street, I heard this chap say, "I'll have a pint of keg." Well, he did not that accent, but that's what he said. So I said, "I'll have a pint of keg, please." And this pint of beer arrived on the piano. So I smiled at this chap, and I took this pint of beer, and I nodded it in, in a sort of workmanlike way, and it was horrible. Didn't like it at all. I thought I'd better not let them know that, so I sipped it as much as I could, put it back on the piano, playing away, and then somebody else said, "Here, would you like a drink?" And this time I thought, well, I don't want to say that I want the same sort of drink again. That'll make me look a bit naive and silly. So I said, I'll have a sherry. And the sherry arrived. I didn't like that much either, but I could sort of drink. And then somebody else said, "Would you like a drink?" Now, I was wrestling, trying to think of drinks. I think I'd seen a James Bond film. I said, "I'll have a whiskey and dry," whatever that was. And that arrived, and that was really horrible. And then I had a gin and tonic. That was sort of okay, provided you put lots of tonic in. And then somebody else said, "Would you like a drink?" I couldn't think of anything. And then I remembered, in the same James Bond film, a creme de menthe. So rather proud, I said, "I'll have a creme de menthe." And this thing arrived, and it looked like fairy liquid. But it tasted like toothpaste, which was quite nice. I had another one of those. And I've got all these drinks lined up on the piano, and I'm playing away, and everyone's sort of enjoying themselves and saying nice things to me. And eventually, of course, I discovered that Mrs. Dines had been lying to me. She told me, she specifically said, "It matters what note you play in the left hand, you see." That's what she said, "It matters." She said, "It matters, Bernard. You have to play the right notes in the left hand." That's what she said. And she was lying. I didn't like the fact she was lying, but that she was lying, because it didn't matter. You see, I found that provided you made some sort of rhythmic thud down there, everybody was perfectly happy. Yes. I'm not sure you can play Mozart like that. No, maybe not. But anyway, I knew a lot of songs, because my mother had a book called
Songs That Won the War.
Songs That Won the War, you see. I don't know about you, but if I was in a pillbox in the desert, a rat-infested pillbox, suffering machine gun enemy fire, I don't think I'd be terribly pleased after 6 months if all the credit for the victory went to the songwriters. I wouldn't be pleased about that. So there you are. Songs That Won the War. And they're all songs about how marvellous life was, how fantastic it was being poor. We ain't got a barrel of money, and maybe we're ragged and funny, but we're travelling on, singing us. Never songs about how awful life was and how we're all likely to die the next day. No. Never anything like that. Just songs about how absolutely wonderful life was, yes, yes. And I remember thinking after a while, I thought this would be a wonderful way to make a living. Absolutely wonderful. And here I am all these years on, and I'm thinking, this is a shit way to make a living. Never mind, oh, it's all dry as anything. Stops really beer. I've got an arrangement with the barman. Gives me a soft drink, but he charges the punters for beer. A little bit of a scam we've got going here. I lost my virginity to a woman 3. Don't like numbers. 3 times my age. Well, not exactly 3 times my age, but had it been a week later, it would have been exactly 3 times my age. It's all in the time. Funny stuff, isn't it? Time. That was the 70s, you see. And one night, my friend Kev, remember my friend Kev, who incidentally, that night he only drank beer, that's all he drank. I think he made a bit of a fool of himself. Kevin and I, we moved in on 2 girls, Wentworth bus station. Moved in, isn't that a dreadful piece of terminology? But that's the sort of thing we used to say back then, in the 1970s. We moved in on these 2 girls. And they were the same age as us, same age. But they seemed so much older and daring, and the clothes they wore. They looked like they were auditioning to be squaws in a spaghetti western. Sort of clothes that we'd only seen in the pages of Oz. Clothes that looked like they'd been bleached by the San Francisco sun, with trousers that bell-bottomed so profusely there was room to keep a stash of Moroccan gold or a small hamster or some morning glory in them. Clothes that reeked of ganja and Joni Mitchell, and James Taylor and Woodstock and Jimi Hendrix. And although they were obviously superior to us, they allowed us to follow them back to the flat of one of their mothers who lived above the old cinema in Wentworth. And we went back. And then I suddenly got a shock because the mother too, whose name was Sylvia, she also wore bell-bottoms that bloomed profusely, and she wore oil of Ulay. And I was suddenly hooked on the realization that that generation weren't necessarily dressing like Sunday school teachers and angry that their children didn't share their adoration of the black and white minstrel show or Vel Doonican. Vel Doonican, bless him. And that's where I learned all about sex. Sex, what funny stuff it was back then. I was one of the last generation that never had sex education. Never had that, you see. You know, those sort of things where a red-faced teacher puts a condom on a cucumber. You know, that sort of thing? I never experienced that. But I felt I knew about sex because I bought a second-hand book when I was about 12 in Wentworth Arcade. And it was an American book. It was a very, very 70s book. It was a very libertine sort of book. And it told you sex was a marvellous thing and everybody should have sex all the time with everybody. That's that sort of book, you know, and not worry about it. Yes. But it didn't actually tell you how to do it. And then one of the strange things in this book is that it said all adolescents of a pubescent age, they all develop an adolescent crush on somebody of their own sex. They said, everybody does this, they said. It's quite normal when you're about 11 or 12, you develop a crush on somebody of your own age. And I didn't doubt this for a second. I'd read it in the book. And he said that was quite normal. It's a phase that everybody goes through. And then you carry on being a regular heterosexual, you see. So I thought I'd better find somebody to have a crush on. And unfortunately, I chose Barry Kearley. I don't know if you know Barry Kearley. Well, how Barry Kearley ever got to Wentworth High School at all, I don't know. I mean, he was big and burly and sort of ugly and quite stupid as far as I could make out. How he passed the 11 plus, I do not know. I think he may have bribed the examiners or something. He was that sort of chap. And I didn't like him. I didn't like him at all. But I thought, yes, okay. This is my adolescent crush. So every time I came near Barry Kearley, I sort of felt a bit self-conscious and went a bit red, you know. But let me be absolutely clear about this. I didn't want anything physical from him. Nothing at all. It wasn't like that. I was just proving how heterosexual I was by getting this crush out of the way, you see. That was all. I had no desire to have anything physical with him. I would rather have snogged Margaret Thatcher. Actually, I quite fancy Margaret Thatcher. I know, but I don't think so. I mean, I had no desire for anything whatsoever physical with Barry Kearley. Unfortunately, that wasn't mutual. Barry Kearley wanted to get physical with me, but not in that way. He just used to beat me up. It's horrible. He used to beat me up all the time. He used to beat me up in before double maths. He'd always beat me up. It was horrible. And I think that's maybe why I don't like numbers, because I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't like numbers. And that was Barry Kearley. And I thought, this is ridiculous. There's something wrong here. It really hurt. And I thought, is this possible that I've got a crush on you, and yet you annihilate me? How does that work? And I thought, is this a parable of things to come? And I suppose, in a way, it was. But sex. Sylvia told me all about sex. A sort of practical lesson, if you like, with demonstrations. I mean, we never had sex. I mean, not actual sex, but she used to sort of be live at 4 a.m. next to the Afghan coat-wearing daughter who's in the room next door, a room painted blue in honour of the latest Joni Mitchell album. And she said, you know, have you ever had a partner, Bernard? And I'd say no, and she was quite sort of liberal, let me try things, and she let me stroke her breasts. And they were very soft. Possibly a bit too soft, if I'm honest, but they were breasts all the same. And she had, I don't know how to put this really, she had this hair in a naughty place. And she was quite comfortable with me stroking it. And I remember, and this is typical of the 70s, I'd been on a school trip to a zoo, and there was a leopard. And they let me stroke this leopard. That's the sort of thing they used to let you do back then. I stroked this leopard. Yeah. And I remember with Sylvia, it felt like a very similar experience. Only much more dangerous. Very well. And then she said,
You can come back on Friday. My daughter won't be home then, and you can seduce me. We'll have sex.
S-E-X. Funny how she couldn't actually say the word. S-E-X. It's funny how she could get intertwined, if you like, with a teenager. But she couldn't actually bring herself to say the actual word. But never mind, it was good enough for me. What a promise. And I left that flat at 4 in the morning and I walked through the subway. Come back Friday, she said. I was looking forward to Friday. My goodness me, was I looking forward to Friday. And I couldn't wait to tell all the boys at school what I would have done. Oh my goodness me. Yes, they'd all say, you're a hero. Hapen, you're a hero. Come Friday. And in Latin the next day, every word suddenly seemed to sound like vagina. Well, it always did. I mean, it always did anyway. But suddenly, vagina, vaginis, vaginatum, vagina, I don't know, Viagra, whatever. I couldn't decline it. And I felt I couldn't decline it that Friday. I was shaking like a leaf. I was so excited. Back to the railway tavern. On Mother Kelly's doorstep. Down Paradise Road. I wonder if Kelly remembers Joe. Roll on Friday, roll on Friday. Of course, I had to bunk off school. Never done anything like that before. Never played truant before. And I had this idea. That I'd have to sort of dig a tunnel or something, or jump on the back of a service vehicle. But in the end, I just walked out. And I don't think anybody missed me, apart from possibly Barry Carey, who had nobody to beat up that day. Yes, Barry Carey. I should have mentioned Barry Carey. He had a lot of hair, very blonde hair, very striking. Extraordinary blonde hair, Barry Carey. Anyway, I turned up at Sylvia's flat, and I very tentatively knocked on the door, and she came out in a pink dressing gown, which is very similar to the one that my grandmother used to wear. And that sort of frightened me rather. And, well, I went into the bedroom, and I don't remember the fall. I don't remember the fall play. But there it was. A vagina. Okay, boys, we're going in. Couldn't have been it, surely. It was horrible. And then Sylvia said, in what seemed to me like a bit of a carefully rehearsed speech,
That is what men have fought for, lied for, killed for, even died for.
and then she added,
My sex life's always been shit. Don't see why yours should be any different.
back to the railway tavern. I felt like I was a changed man. On Mother Kelly's step. I'm wondering now. I wonder if Kelly remembers Joe. But even though I hadn't enjoyed it at all, I still look forward to telling Kevin about it. And I still look forward to lording it over the other boys at school and letting them know that I was no longer, virgin. And but the funny thing is, I never told anybody. I've never told anybody. Until now, obviously. I suppose you could say I've overcompensated for that now, couldn't you? Underneath the lamplight, by the barrack gate, now they're very poignant, some of these old tunes, aren't they? And they're all based on truth, you know. There's always somebody behind them. Maggie May? It was an actual Maggie May. Sweet Georgia Brown? There was an actual Sweet Georgia Brown. Danny Boy? Molly Malone? They all exist, you see. They're all out there. Anybody know Frederick Baker?
No.
No, nobody knows Frederick Baker. Isn't it funny? Frederick Baker was a gruesome, horrible man, a murderer. And he murdered a little girl in the mid-19th century. And you probably know the girl he murdered because he murdered a girl called Fanny Adams. I know, it's awful, dreadful, horrible. Isn't it funny? But if you could go back in time and tap her on the shoulder and say, future's not great for you, but you'll be one of the most famous people on the planet. People will still be using your name in 200 years' time. They'll still be saying, Sweet Fanny Adams. I don't imagine she'd have believed you. Frederick Baker, not a nice man. They hanged him, I'm glad to say.
Could you play something to cheer us up? You're making us ever so miserable with your music.
Okay, yeah, I do apologise. Sorry, yes. I didn't mean to make you miserable. I'll make you happy now, okay? I am H-A-P-P-Y, H-A-P-P-Y. I know I am, I'm sure I am, I'm H-A-P-P-Y. No? We used to sing that at Sunday school, you know? It used to make us dead miserable. What else can I play you? Even when the darkest clouds are in the sky, you mustn't sigh and you mustn't cry. Spread a little happiness as you get by. Or a bit of Paul McCartney. Would you like some Paul McCartney? Ebony and ivory live together in perfect harmony, side by side on my piano keyboard. Oh Lord, why can't we? Yes, ebony and ivory live together in perfect harmony. I don't know if that's true though, is it? I mean, you've got 5 black notes and they're quite small, and you've got 7 white notes and they're quite big. There you are. I wonder if Stevie Wonder was really happy with that concept. But maybe nobody told him. Sorry, a little joke there. You're not allowed to make jokes like that anymore, are you? You never heard that. You know, it's funny. It's funny that I felt as old. I felt as old as time when I was 16. Sometimes these days I feel surprisingly young. I remember the first time I ever heard a metronome. And I thought it was so strange. You could adjust the speed, you see. There's your life slipping away. Musicians are very fond of dividing the future into equal beats. Here's what we're going to do, chaps. We're going to divide the future up into equal beats, and we'll have a harmonic change on every beat. That's how it works, you see. There's this chap on the radio the other day, and he said, if music goes at the same speed as your heart, it's a waste of time. If music can't change your metabolism, there's no point in listening to it. But of course, that's not true, because everybody's heart rate is different, isn't it? You see? They do talk nonsense on the radio, don't they? I remember the first time I ever felt depressed. I was in Wentworth bus station. I was 16. And there was a sun. It was completely puce as it flirted with the horizon. And I felt it was taking my lifeblood away. Don't get me wrong, I mean, I've been depressed before, but this was sort of different. I instinctively knew this was something different. I didn't know my heart could be so heavy. I knew my lymphatic system could be tied in knots, but I never knew how convoluted and how expertly tied those knots could be. As if there was a squadron of ideas fighting to get into the final bars of an unfinished symphony. Sorry, did that sound a bit pretentious, did it? Yeah. Sorry, I do get carried away sometimes. You are. We all experience it, don't we? Especially at the moment, the way things are. I wrote a symphony once. I don't think it was very good. It had elements of Beethoven, bits of Stockhausen, little bits of Gilbert and Sullivan, intertwined with a little bit of Schumann, and a touch of Grieg, and maybe a splash of Les Dawson just to finish it all off. That was my symphony. But my mother burnt it. Don't blame her, really. She said it was making me too intense. Too intense, Bernard, she said. So when I wasn't writing a symphony, I used to write songs. I used to write strange songs about lonely ladies in council houses whose daughters gave them bouquets of nettles. Yes. And then I applied for music college. I thought it was time to go a bit legitimately, but I wasn't sure the audition went very well. Because I remember them saying, so what does your father do, Bernard? And I rather innocently said, oh, he's a taxi driver. And he said, oh, that doesn't matter. Oh my goodness me, that doesn't matter, does it? We don't worry about that sort of thing here. Doesn't matter your father's a taxi driver. And then I auditioned for the Air Force Band. I wanted to play in the central band, but I never heard anything. I thought perhaps it was because I had flat feet. And then that summer, I took myself off to Spain. And I went up a mountain. And I didn't feel so depressed, funnily enough, when I was up on my own. Got very cold at night. I remember on one occasion I had to take a jumper. And I had to put my feet through the arms, through the sleeves, and pull the jumper up over my head just to keep warm. And I had this idea, you see. I had this idea that I wanted to spend 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. I wasn't religious. I just had this idea that I wanted to do that. 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. Which is a bit of a funny concept, really, because, I mean, you couldn't have 40 days without the nights, could you, really? I mean, that wouldn't be 40 days in the wilderness, really, if you went to a hotel at night, would it? So why don't they just say 5 and a bit weeks and be a bit more honest about it, rather than spin it out to 40 days and 40 nights? But there it was, 40 days in the wilderness. And I learned a lot about myself. In the day, I would just walk and do a lot of thinking and not eat anything. And I don't know if you ever tried this. I don't know if you ever tried not eating for a long time. It's quite interesting because after a while, it's fascinating, you become incredibly hungry. And I was so hungry, I thought I'd better eat something. So I came down from my mountain and there was this Spanish shop. And I thought, right, now, Bernard, you've been in the mountains for a long time. You've been in the habit of talking to yourself. You'd better not talk to yourself or people will think you're a bit strange. So I went into the shop. I remember I said to myself, do not talk to yourself. Do not talk to yourself. Do not talk to yourself. And I went in the shop talking like that, you see. And then there was this lady, and she was leaning over to get some soap. And she accidentally brushed against me. And it was electric. I don't mean the soap was electric, obviously not. There's no such thing as electric soap, as far as I know. I mean, she brushed against me, and I felt this sensation. And she must have been 75, at least, this lady. And I was horrified, and I thought, what's happened to me? Am I now so weird that I'm seeking some sort of congress with a 75-year-old woman? But then I realised it wasn't that at all. I just wanted to touch somebody. Just wanted to touch somebody, anybody at all. I just wanted to touch somebody. So I came home. And I tried to touch my mother, and she wouldn't let me. She said, no, don't. You're too old for that sort of thing, Bernard. Very well. But there were 2 letters. One was from the RAF Central Band, and they'd accepted me. But I had to sign on for 14 years. 14 years? I'd be an old man. I'd be 30. That was out of the question. And the other one was from the Royal College of Music. And I'd been accepted, so it was a no-brainer. So I decided to go to the Royal College of Music. Take myself a bit seriously, you see. And in order to finance myself, I got a job at Chaffley's nightclub in Marylebone, where the strippers had a curious moral superiority over the hookers, whose disenchantment with life you could almost smell over their extravagantly cheap perfume. And I remember this madame of the place, and she was trying to persuade a 60-year-old to become a hooker. And she said, it's ever so easy. All you've got to do is smile sweetly and say, I only drink champagne. But the girl wasn't having it, and she started crying. And I too started crying. And I wasn't sure why. I didn't know whether it was because I was so shocked at the inappropriateness of such tender language, or whether I was developing some sort of latent prisoners that was masquerading as moral indignation. It made me very sad. And I didn't know. I was a bit naive at first. I didn't realise that these girls, I thought, what a lot of girls on a night out. I didn't realise what they did for a living. Until I heard one of them sing, and then the penny dropped.
You ain't got the money, honey. You don't get the honey, money. If you want the honey, honey, you gotta have the money, honey.
Excuse me, I say, do you think you can play my way?
Oh.
It sums up my life, and I really would rather like that to be played at my funeral.
Okay, yes, I think I'd like it played at your funeral too. My way, yes, of course. Yes, it's all getting a bit serious here. It's probably a good thing to play my way. Yes, yes, indeed. And now, the end is near. It's not, though. I've got another 2 hours to go yet. Don't worry, it's all right. I'm only making that up. Another 3. No. Isn't it funny? Everybody wants that song. They want that song played at the funeral because now the end is there. I did it my way. Everybody wants to say they did it my way. You never get anybody who wants to hear I did it their way, which is actually what most of us do, isn't it? Really, but never mind. Sometimes, you know, I just play completely random notes just to see if anybody's listening. Never had the slightest suspicion that anybody actually notices, but never mind. Anyway, the thing is, there I was, at the Royal College of Music, and I was studying with Mr. Latovsky, and I was staying in a bedsit in the Gold Hawk Road, in a house that smelled of the First World War. And I remember the landlord had a huge, mouth-obliterating walrus moustache. And he used to come into my room every morning on the pretext of emptying the litter bin, but really to find out whether I brought a woman back the night before. And he'd come in and he'd say, "Good morning, Bernard," in such a way as to sort of imply that he wanted me to have anything but a good morning. And then off to the Royal College, and Mr. Latovsky, I would play, and he'd say, "That's fine, that's very good, very good. But maybe you could lean on the F sharp a bit more." So I played exactly the same. As if I'd leaned on the F sharp, and he'd say, "Oh, that's so much better. That's so much better." It wasn't. But he was a good teacher, and he had my interest in heart. And then that year, I won the Freeman competition, and you could have knocked me down with a feather. I didn't think I had a chance. Some of the competitors were like polished waxworks. Some of them were even Korean or Japanese or whatever. And they played, and it was me, just playing. And scared, if I'm honest. But I won. I actually won the competition. And suddenly there were adjudicators saying words like magnificent, magisterial, talking about me. And I don't remember it because it was so amazing, but I do know it happened. And I do remember being marched past these ladies in chains and civic dignitaries and smiling at me as if they were going to eat me and saying all these nice things about me. So then I quit the nightclub. I decided to take myself very seriously. And I grew my hair a bit longer. And I used to walk through the back streets of Kensington, just like Oscar Wilde, I suppose. I didn't actually carry a lily in my hand, but probably gave that opinion. And it never bothered me until I never realised how extreme my appearance had become until one day I was on one of those giant escalators, you know, on the underground. There's one escalator going one way, and the giant one coming the other way. And then all of a sudden, somebody shouted out, "Hey, you fucking ponce in a cravat!" And I knew everyone was looking at me, and I knew they were looking at me because their eyes were going up and down like that, with the trajectory of my escalator, as if they were watching a game of tennis being played vertically. But there it was. And I was entered for the Coleman competition. And the Coleman competition was a real thing, because if you won the Coleman competition, you would have a career as a concert pianist. So I practiced so hard. I practiced so hard that my fingers bled. And the day of the competition came, and I was a transformed person. For the first time in my life, I felt so confident, because all I had done was play the piano mercilessly for months and months. And I came out to the centre of that stage. There was the audience. And I felt so confident. And I moved to the piano, and I owned that piano. I owned the piano. The piano belonged to me. And I felt I owned the audience too. And I prepared to play. Just before I began to play, I made a mistake. I looked at the audience, and there in the front row was Sylvia. I hadn't seen her for years, you see. I heard that she became a grandmother, and the idea that she was a grandmother rather disturbed me, if I'm honest, but I hadn't really thought about it. All I thought about was playing the piano, that was all. All I thought about was playing the piano. And suddenly, well, it wasn't that it completely went to pieces, but I couldn't really... I started playing... And it really wasn't very good. And there were mistakes, and there were mistakes. And when you play, if you play... That was a mistake, but it doesn't matter. Mr. Latowski said, capitalise on your mistakes, Bernard. If it goes wrong, make the most of it. Enjoy your mistakes. But there are mistakes and there are mistakes. And when you go to play a G and you hit an F sharp and you have no idea why, that is a mistake we do not make. Bernard Haper doesn't make mistakes like that, and I made that mistake. Suddenly, I was so small. Piano seemed enormous, and I was so small. And there was Sylvia, grinning like a Cheshire cat. And I thought, I've got to do something here. I've got to do something. And suddenly, it seemed quite miraculous, but then I played almost like I've never played before. And then I suddenly realised I was so happy. I'd never played like that. The music was so satisfying to me, even though it was me playing. And then I realised I hadn't been playing. I hadn't been playing at all. My fingers weren't moving, so I knew I wasn't playing. It was all in my head. And the audience was sitting there in complete silence. So then I started playing. But I think it was too late. I felt it was too late, you see. And then there was the interval. And I walked up to Sylvia, and I prepared myself. I knew exactly what I was going to say. I had this devastating tirade of linguistics prepared. But all I could say in the end, all I could actually bring myself to say to her was, "What on earth are you doing here?" And still grinning like a Cheshire cat, she looked at me, and I realised it wasn't her. That didn't help either. I mean, I thought that's typical of Sylvia. Typical. Why can't she pretend to be her? I was completely defeated, and I just walked out of the auditorium, and I thought, your life's over, Bernard. Your life is over. And I just walked and walked, and I went abroad, and I got a job in a bar in Hamburg. Not playing the piano, just got a job in the bar. Got a job just working. I was there 5 years. I did a Stephen Fry, I suppose. Years before Stephen Fry did a Stephen Fry even. I just walked and walked and left and survived and lived, and walked and survived and worked in a bar. And, well, Stephen Fry tried was how my brain felt. Yes, not good times. And then one day I came home. I came back to Britain. And I got myself a job again. The same place I played in before, the same nightclub. I hadn't even played the piano for 5 years. And it was okay. I could still play. People were happy. But I just played. Didn't mean a thing. Just sat there playing. Whatever. I just played. And I took the money. And funny enough, my life took quite a good turn. I met a girl called Angelique. And Angelique was a very good-looking girl. Not the sort of girl that would be attracted to me. But for some reason, she was. My friends would say, you know the way people talk and they say things which they call banter, but they actually mean what they say, really. And they say, what's a good-looking girl like that doing with a tosser like you, Bernard? And I couldn't believe it, really. And she had a good job. She worked in the city. I think she'd had a few problems in her life, and I think she saw me as being safe. But there it was. I was with Angelique. And it should have been good. It should have been fantastic. But it wasn't, somehow. And if I'm honest, I think I preferred her friend, Beryl. And then I discovered so did she. And they went off together and they walked the Appalachian Trail. And I thought of joining them for a while. But instead, I became an alcoholic. As an alcoholic, I wasn't even very good at it. When I joined the AA, I felt so embarrassed. I met people there who told me they would drink a bottle of whiskey before breakfast. And all I could do was down a bottle of red wine in the afternoon, just finish it off in the evening. So I suppose as an alcoholic even, I was pretty crap. But I met Connie. Connie, I think, was the most beautiful woman I've ever met. Hello, Con. Oh, Connie. Love you, girl.
Love you too.
Connie. I think Connie. You did all right, didn't you? You managed to stop drinking for an hour or so now and again. And then Connie inherited this mansion up in the north of England, didn't you? And we lorded it over the people of the village, didn't we, for a little while? But Connie didn't know that I played the piano. You didn't know.
I had no idea.
And there was this piano that she'd inherited in the lounge. I never touched it for about a month or so.
Yeah, that's right.
And then one day I played it. You were blown away, weren't you? You were totally blown away. She said, how on earth can you do that? As if it was some sort of party trick or something. And it was Connie. She managed to get herself together enough to actually go online, and she discovered that the winner of the 1983 Coleman competition was me. Can you believe that? In spite of the fact that I walked out of the building and abandoned it, I'd actually won the piano competition. And it was Connie that made me start playing the piano again. And then when they told her that she had cancer, and they gave her 6 weeks to live, and you made it for about 2, didn't you? Yeah. And we saw it out. We thought, why would we ever stop drinking? And we saw it out in drunken haze. And there it was. I thought, why not bother? I loved you, Connie. And then I met Phyllis. Phyllis was a press agent. And when I told her When I told her that I'd won the Coleman competition, she said,
It's not about the talent, it's about the story. Recovered alcoholic. Didn't even realise he'd won the Coleman Prize. It's a matter of how it's handled.
media gold dust, I think you said.
That's right.
And so it was decided that I would then make another comeback. Why not? And I practiced even harder than ever. Even harder than ever. I would have got the house if I'd actually married Connie. But she said, no, there's no point. There's no point in getting married. We'd be doing it for the wrong reasons. So the sister got the house, which is fine. But the sister allowed me to keep the piano. And I felt I owed it to Connie to practice even more. And my God, did I practice. By the side of the piano. And then one night, I was driving and I saw this car that had gone down a ditch, see? And this poor chap was there inside. I thought he died at first, and then I saw he was still breathing, still alive. And I looked at him. And the face looked oddly familiar. And he had a shock of blonde hair. Well, my mobile phone wasn't working. And I had an idea that I shouldn't move him, but I thought I've got to do something. So I pulled him out of the car and I took him to the nearest hospital. And then it all went mad. All these people in white coats appeared out of nowhere. And I said to one of the nurses, I said, I wasn't sure if I should have moved him. And she said, no, you probably shouldn't, which rather took the wind out of my sails. But they still sort of acknowledged that I saved his life. And there he was in this bed with his blonde hair, in a coma. And the nurse said, I wonder who he is. And I said, I think I know. I think his name is Kearley, Barry Kearley. And I went there every day to see him for about a month. And just sat there and looked at him. And I wasn't sure why. And I don't think I certainly didn't want retribution or anything, but I just thought, wouldn't this make my life so symmetrical and perfect if it transpires that I imagine the conversations we'd have. You know, you used to beat me up at school. You made my life miserable, but I saved your life. You know, but that's all right. That's cool. That's fine. We'll be friends now. And I just went and stared at him every day in his bed. And then one day I went there, and suddenly his eyes opened. And I looked at him, and I said, you know who I am, don't you? He said, no. And I said, Wentworth High? He said, what? I said, Wentworth High. You must remember, Wentworth High, Wentworth High. Bernard Haypen. What? I said, Wentworth High, He said, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't even come to this country till I was 27. I went to Sydney Comprehensive. I'd done it again. But this time there was no way back. This time there was absolutely no way back. There are mistakes and there are mistakes. And this is my penance. I'm here every night at the Luton Skyboard Hotel. Playing the piano. Gentle, soft music. Nobody really listens. Except a funny old lady called Margaret sometimes.
Do you think you could play Summertime?
Summertime? Yeah, something, summertime. Summertime. And the living is easy. Fish are jumping high. The living is easy. The fish are jumping. They've got time. It's a happy song. But it's so slow and so sad. Your daddy's rich and your mama's good looking. Hush, little baby, don't you cry. And I must have played this song, I don't know, 3,500 times perhaps, I don't know, a lot of times. Compare it to Bye Bye Love, hello sweet caress, goodbye emptiness, I feel like I could die, I feel like I could die, goodbye my love, goodbye. Yes, funny things, songs, aren't they? Anyway, never mind. Thank you for listening to me playing here at the Skyport. And well, it's 8:15, and Margaret will be along in a minute, bang on cue, as she always is. And Margaret will ask me, she'll say, can you play any Beethoven, she'll say. And she'll only ask me because she wants to tell me that she used to play Beethoven. As if. Yeah. She'll just want to tell me that she used to play Beethoven. She walks with a limp, which I'm sure is affected. Anyway, she's... you watch. What she'll have. You check it. Check it out.
Good evening, young man.
Haha, young. Every time somebody calls me young, I think that'll be the last time it happens. But there you are. It still happens after that. So, go on, get on with it, you with the speech. Ask me if I can play any Beethoven.
Can you play me some Beethoven?
Yes, I can play Beethoven. Go on, so that you could tell me that you used to play it. Go on.
I used to play Beethoven.
Yes, I know you did. And I bet you made a right pig's ear of it, you witless bitch.
Do you know you just said that out loud?
No, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm confusing myself now. Well, at least I don't pretend that I used to play Beethoven and walk with a fake limp. That was out loud as well, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. You think you're psychologically damaged, don't you?
Yes, well, I suppose I do. But at least I don't walk with a fake limp and pretend that I can play Beethoven, as if. That was out loud too.
Yes, it was. Well, go on then. Attempt to play the Beethoven sonata that you tried to play last night. Only this time, when you get to the 17th bar, why don't you try and play the B sharp in the bass like Beethoven desired it, rather than playing it in the B natural, which you've done on the past 3 times that I've asked you to play it.
Right. Respect. Well, transpired that Margaret had indeed been a concert pianist. And she'd had a very celebrated career. This was a few years ago, actually. I've been misleading you a little bit. But it transpired that she'd been recording all my playing and she'd been analysing it. And she knew my playing inside out. And every time I played that wrong note in Beethoven, she'd notice. And I noticed too. I got to the point in my life it didn't really bother me anymore. And we suddenly got on like a house on fire. And they asked me to play at a funeral. And when I turned up at this church hall out in the sticks, I thought, this is so sad. Has this poor lady died with no friends? And then they told me that Margaret had left me something. And I remember thinking, well, if it's £50, I'm going to have a slap-up meal to Margaret. And then you start thinking, what if it's a bit more? If it's £500, I'll have a holiday. If it's £1,000, no, you can't think like that, can you? But she hadn't actually left me money. She left me a hotel. This hotel. And it's saying that Margaret all the time was there as the owner of the hotel. And nobody knew. Dressed like a fag lady. And now it's mine. And I don't think the waiters know. They don't realise. They don't realise how close they come to being fired sometimes. And I still play her every night. And it doesn't bother me anymore. I enjoy it. I like it. My voice has changed. I've become a bit more restaurant. I smile at people. And sometimes I feel as if my life is written on a giant accordion in the sky. And I feel like I'm a cheerleader to every musician that ever sells his soul to banality. I feel I should play an anthem for cocktail pianists everywhere. Because the army of disillusioned musicians to whom I've enlisted, they divulge little clues. The fingers don't go as quietly as their souls. Every now and again, little soupçons of musical excellence rise to the surface. Every now and again, you hear golden musical nuggets that refuse to surrender to the general banality. And tonight I'm sitting here and I suddenly see these people in my life. And there's Sylvia. She's now 108. And there's the girl from Manema. The girl from Manema's just walked in. And there's Barry Carey, the real Barry Carey.
And there it was. What a magnificent rendition. So tell me, Bernard Hapin, people have been texting in to ask for more information about him. Who was he?
I don't have any, I'm afraid. It appears he became a registered alcoholic in the 90s, and nobody's heard of him since. I assume he's no longer with us, sadly. But, well, if he is, I'm certain he no longer plays the piano.
That was a lot more serious than you were expecting, wasn't it? Sorry about the cadence of that. People always ask me if it's autobiographical. No, it isn't, actually. Bits of it are, but basically it's not, really. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. The wonderful Olivia Post. That's